Hello, soul family. Hello, everyone. It's great to be with you today. And I just wanted to jump on here quickly to share a message about the higher self, your higher timeline. This is the version of self that we're all striving to be. We're all working towards this in our personal lives, this highest and ultimate embodiment of our truth, our uniqueness, our authenticity. But I wanted to clarify the language around this and the misperceptions that I'm noticing, because what's really happening is that without realizing, we may be actually unknowingly disempowering ourselves and inhibiting our higher timeline and reality from taking shape, from actualizing. And this is because when we use language like higher or lower, we start to create perceptions and beliefs that a higher self or a higher version of ourselves or a higher timeline means that there is inherently more value or worth. Okay, so many of us unconsciously and subconsciously believe that when we're talking about a higher timeline, we're actually talking about something more valuable or more worthy. And therefore, there can be a chase, a striving, an urgency to get to that position or to get to that level in our spiritual journey so that we can deem ourselves more valuable or more worthy of our own existence. But the thing is that the universe doesn't judge one path or another as better or worse, or even right or wrong. The universe perspective is not one of polarity. So that really means that every experience that you have had in your life and everything that you're going through right now, whether that's blissful and expansive, or it's at the other extreme opposite and it's deeply painful and challenging, all of it carries equal weight in the eyes of source creation. And so really there isn't any judgment. And there really is no distinction that can be made in terms of a value spectrum. But nonetheless, this is something that we tend to do, especially because the languaging is oversimplified. Okay, we see things that are higher as better. Okay, and we take the opposite side of that, the higher self compared to the lower self. Okay, because if we're saying that we're working towards being our higher self, well, if we've acknowledged that we're not where we want to be, are we reinforcing that belief that we're living out the lower self timeline? Okay, and are we applying a lesser value to that experience? And so we can get quite entangled and caught up within the languaging of it. Okay, and we can start to, whether we're realizing that we're doing this or not, we can start to perceive it as a spectrum of value, which is really not right. Okay, it's not correct, it's untrue. As I said, divine source creation does not judge one path as better or worse or higher or lower in terms of value. Okay, and so we might be waiting for our highest joy, our true purpose and fulfillment to take shape before we can actually feel valuable or worthy of our own existence. Okay, and that's because many of us are believing that the version of us that right now is still struggling with our setbacks, our hardships, and feeling burdened and weighed down by unresolved traumas and negative emotions, that really this version of us, that we're looking to expand from, we're looking to transcend and overcome, that somehow this being is of a lesser value. And this is totally untrue. And so just because you might be navigating hardship right now, whether that might be a toxic relationship, it might be a chronic illness, a draining job that's really unfulfilling that you're going to every day, perhaps a financial struggle, or just deep-seated feelings of unworthiness or feeling unloved, this in no way, shape, or form means that you failed or fallen behind. And it absolutely is no indication of a lower value to your existence. And so what is so crucial here is that we set aside our polarity perspective and we dissolve that polarity lens so that we can open up and expand and blossom into the bigger picture, that unified interpretation and understanding of life and existence itself. And so from that, it's really the eyes of the heart. It's like where we drop the mind into the heart. The mind bows in reverence to that unified divine love of the heart and the way that it sees the connection between all things. Because ultimately, all of the experiences that you're having and that you have had throughout your whole life are threads in an incredibly vast tapestry of your soul's evolution. And so everything that you go through, and that includes the highs and the lows and everything in between, are all of equal importance and are actually all highly valuable to your own process of empowerment, to your journey of transcendence and becoming that ultimate radiant presence of who you truly are and everything that you're working towards on your spiritual path, on your path of healing. Okay, and so rather than disempowering ourselves through judgment and this misperception of a value spectrum with higher self and lower self, we can actually start to empower ourselves by seeing it differently. Okay, by dissolving that polarity, by learning to expand into a more whole totality in how we judge and analyze our lives. Okay. And so our empowerment really begins when we stop resisting our present reality and we actually soften into acceptance. And that can be really hard to do, because if what's showing up in your life is not what you prefer to be living, then it can put us in a resistive stance towards it, okay, and in a battle and internal conflict. But it's so important right now to trust that no matter where you find yourself today, that life is always offering you exactly what your soul is needing for growth and what your soul is asking for healing and awakening and self-awareness. And so that's when we can redefine our relationship with our most darkest and difficult moments and really see the inherent gift that is within that and the deep purpose that's unfolding, that all of these struggles and challenges are actually contributing towards. So this, again, it may feel conflicting, because what we might think is that if we accept what's here, okay, if we accept life right now, today, in all the ways that we're living what we don't prefer, our unhappiness, our lack of fulfillment, our pain and our struggle, that somehow we're going to stay stuck in those current conditions and even perhaps enabling them, because we think we're giving permission for the struggle to continue by accepting it. So we say to ourselves, if I accept what's here, it will continue to exist. But it's actually the opposite. When we genuinely let go of resistance, when we soften into acceptance and we meet our life today exactly as it is, even if it's not what we prefer to be living, we actually become empowered to shift it. Okay, the judgment and the fear and the worry that we're going to stay stuck in these conditions in the lower timeline creates an energetic bondage, an energetic bind, because everything that we resist persists. Okay. And so when we resist or reject our reality, we're actually disconnecting from the energy that fuels real change. And our future, our higher timeline, our higher self, our most empowered divine expression of source consciousness cannot rise through us from battling what's presently here. Okay, so we're fighting reality, we're fighting the conditions of our life, the unfulfillment, the lack of abundance, the lack of love, the lack of self-love, and feeling down about it and feeling like we cannot honor what's here or accept what's here or give value to what is here and why it's here and the purpose that it's serving, then we really do cut ourselves off from that source of energy that really catalyzes that transformation. Okay, and so it's about surrendering, but that does not mean giving up. It doesn't mean just allowing everything to be with no sense of longing or intention to change it. Okay, it's the discomfort that helps us to open ourselves to possibilities that we didn't even know were possible for us. So it doesn't mean we're giving up. It actually means that we're returning to presence. It means that we're shifting out of our logical mind of judgment and polarity and right and wrong and good and bad. And we're actually softening in reverence to the wisdom of the heart that accepts everything in our lives for what it is. Okay, and that's when the battle dissolves, that inner conflict, that war within us starts to dissipate, and we come back to that neutrality, which is our natural state. And from here, we open ourselves up to something new. And this is through the heart stargate, through the wisdom, through the divine grace of the heart that really holds the vision of what we actually know is possible for us. Sending each and every one of you all my love. And I hope that this message finds you in peace, in joy, and most importantly, in self-love and acceptance.